Welcome to A Few Thoughts About, the show where we dig into thinking and how it shapes our experience of life. Each week, I share insights and observations to get you thinking. No long lectures, just quick, thought-provoking episodes to shift perspectives so that you can make the change you want to make. Let's get into it. Hey, before we get started, I want to invite you to join me and my good friends Sam and Ellie for some free coaching calls. So we have been having such a great time in our membership and the stuff that we've done in the Live, Present, and Sober group, and we want to share that with people. We are hosting a completely free coaching call. A totally free call where you can join us. Sometimes it'll be all three of us. Sometimes it'll just be one of us. Sometimes it'll be two of us. You never know what you're going to get, but you will absolutely get a fantastic opportunity to ask questions, to get coached, and to be part of a conversation. So if you have been curious, if you've been like, man, I really wonder what those three weirdos are doing on their calls, I want to invite you to join us. There is a link in the show notes where you can go and get signed up. These calls happen once a month. We're rotating times, we're rotating days. So if you go sign up, you will get emails that will tell you when the calls are going to be and how you can join. So please come join Sam and Ellie and I for free Live, Present, and Sober coaching calls. They are going to be awesome. That is it for me. Let's start the show. Well, hello there, and welcome to A Few Thoughts About Change. You can't force it. So this is another installment on my series on change. I have no idea how many episodes this is going to be. This could be it. Maybe it's just two. This is just the second one. But it could be 2 of 100. It could be 2 of 1,000. It could be 2. Maybe I'll do a half after this. I don't know. But I wanted to talk about change and various sort of aspects, elements of it that I see when I work with people. Now, it's no secret. I know you guys have heard me say before that I work with lots of different people around lots of different things. And so I've seen some commonalities with change. And that's what I want to talk about in this series, right? I want to talk about the things I see about it and the patterns that I see and the way that I work with people on it, because that, I think, is really good information that helps people get to where they want to go. So I wanted to talk about this idea today that you can't force change. Now, a lot of people are going to hear this and they are not going to like it, including probably me of 15 years ago, to be honest with you. Like, I would be pretty upset if you told me that I couldn't force change in my life. But this is a bit of a nuanced point that I want to unpack a little bit. See, what I've seen over the last 10 years that I've been doing this sort of work, both for myself and, with people that I coach, is that very often there's a desire, right? We're in one state, we want to get to another state. So we're drinking and we want to not drink. We're smoking and we want to not smoke. We're in a difficult marriage and we want to be in a better marriage. We're miserable in our job and we want to be happier in our job. So, there's this idea of I am at point A and I want to get to point B. And so the thought is that I'm just going to do a bunch of things to get me to go from A to B. And in certain circumstances, that actually does work. So in certain circumstances, for instance, if I am here in my office on Congress Street in beautiful downtown Portland, Maine, if I'm here in my office and I want to, go get lunch, then there are a series of actions I can take. I can stand up, I can leave my office, I can walk down the stairs, I can go onto the sidewalk, I can walk to a place, I can put it in an order, I can then receive that order and then eat it. Right? That is something I can do. But that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here are these large changes that we try to make in our lives. These ideas of something and we'll take quitting drinking as the example, as usual. There's this idea that I should just force myself to do it. That I need to just hunker down and try harder and push more and whatever that might be. The reality of the situation is that change is deeper than just the action. So please see my last episode on change. It was episode number 71. It was released in June of 2026, on change being an inside job. That yes, the actions do change. That is the end result. But that is a change because of an interior change, because we change the way we think or the way we relate to thinking. This is very similar, right? In the sense that so often people come to me and they're like, I really need to quit drinking. I really need to quit smoking. I really need to feel better, whatever it might be. And very regularly, the place they want to start is, all right, what action am I taking today that's going to get me there, right? What am I going to do? I'm going to dump out all my alcohol right now. And I regularly have to ask people to slow down so that we can talk about this a little bit more, because change isn't something you can force. You're going to need to be on board to make the change, right? And when I say you, what I mean is all of you, all of your thoughts, right? The impulses, the emotions, the stuff that you feel, your experience, the way you look at the world, all of that needs to be ready to make the shift. It's not just about the behavior. If it was, I wouldn't have a job. And to be honest with you, I love what I do, but that would make me very happy. Like if it was that easy, if change was that easy that we could just like snap our fingers and be in a different place, I would be quite excited about that. The fact of the matter is, though, that is absolutely not how it works. Instead, what happens is we get ourselves into a place where we try to force ourselves to change. We try to change the behavior, and none of those other things, the thoughts, the emotions, the experience, the stories, none of those things have actually made that shift. And so this is where people get tripped up, and where over and over and over, they try to force change and use willpower and just make it happen. And I get that. And I love that. And again, there are certain parts in our lives where that can be good. You know, one of those might be in business. Like I run my own business. I understand the idea of wanting to push and grow and do this. And that's all great. Here's the thing though. That change will come when you give yourself the space to fully experience where you are, when you give yourself the opportunity to fully examine your thinking around things, and when you give yourself a chance to take a breath and see the road ahead of you. So oftentimes, again, people will come to me and they're going to want like tactics, like today's the day and, you know, all of that stuff. And I love the enthusiasm. That's huge. That's a big deal. However, very often doing something like that before you're ready to make the change is just like trying to force it. And that rarely works. And you know this, like if you're trying to quit drinking and you're listening to this podcast, you know that like just trying over and over and over and forcing something, trying to force something to go, something feels off about it. We think we should do it. In reality, though, it's not that simple. And so it feels difficult. It feels like something's wrong. It feels like I should be able to just push myself to do this. But in reality, you need to be ready. So now that I've set that scene, I understand the inevitable question is, well, fucking what do I do then? Like, what do I do? Because now, like, what? I just wait? Do I just wait to do this? Like, do I just like how do I handle this? Right? And it's a great question. So when I work with people, one of the things that I do is I have them slow down and really stop trying to make the change for a moment, because 9 times out of 10, by the time they get to me, they're upset. They're angry, they're flustered, they're frustrated, right? There's all types of emotion going on. There's all types of meaning and stuff sort of wrapped up in making this change. And the whole thing has become fraught and heavy and intense. And by the way, that's not to say that it isn't a serious issue. Of course it is. Of course it can be. But the reality is, if we are holding on so tightly to a specific outcome, but we are not ready to make the change, no matter how much we push ourselves, no matter how much we try to change our specific actions, we're not going to get to where we want to go. And so I suggest a different process, right? The way I work with people is much more about let's First of all, like let go of making change for the moment and instead start to explore. Instead, start to look around, right? I realize I have this desire to quit drinking. Why do I want to do this, right? And then we can go and ask ourselves a different question, which a lot of people don't ask, which is, why would I want to stay the way I'm staying? Like, what benefits do I see? By doing this in a non-guilt laden way, by taking a moment to look around and understand, we start to unlock the things that are kind of keeping us stuck. And a really magical thing starts to happen when we start unlocking that stuff. Pretty soon, we start seeing through it. And yeah, regularly there is some work, right? We got to dig into this or dig into that, or, there's a story that's maybe holding us back, or there's something that we feel that doesn't feel good, whatever it might be. But as we begin to do this work, we start to change. Not change in our behavior right away, but changing in the way we see the world, changing the thoughts we have. This changes what makes sense. And that is how change actually happens. We can't force it. We have to let ourselves go through the process. One of my favorite analogies that we use, so you guys know my good friend Sam and Ellie and I have a membership called Live Present and Sober. And it has honestly been probably the highlight of my coaching career. Like, I love it so much. But we have this analogy in a course that we created called Get Stopped. In Get Stopped, we talk about this idea of a lazy river, right? That if you remember the lazy river idea of, being at a water park or whatever, you've got all these slides you can go down, which are all exciting, or you can go in the lazy river where you get a tube and you just sit in the tube and you just go down the river and you let the current take you. This is how you actually change, right? So we talk about it in that course. We talk about it in terms of let this content wash over you. Let yourself kind of have it. It's the same way with any sort of change, right? When we can focus on it without blame and shame, when we can think about what our lives are like with it, when we can get clear on where we want to go, when we can investigate why the things that make sense to us make sense, that's the process of change. And that's not forcing it. That's looking into it. It's actually the opposite. Like, we have this idea of like, oh, I'm going to walk away from drinking. I'm just not going to do it anymore. I'm leaving it in my past, dump it all down the drain. But the reality is that if we can walk into the questions, if we can walk into the feeling of being stuck, all of the emotions that come up, if we can feel those, then the process of change will actually happen. So it's not about forcing the behavior to change. It's about allowing this process to take place. And I will tell you that, like, once I made this shift for myself, once I went from I need to focus and force myself to do this, like I was at the time I was a big Tony Robbins guy, and I was like, I was grabbing life by the balls, right? Like, I was doing those things that we do to try to force things to change. And when I realized that wasn't going to work and I let go, and I opened up instead to allowing it to change, game changer. Like, it's a totally different deal. And so I want to invite you to think about that for yourself. Invite you to think about what are ways in which I can open this up, when I can let go of force and instead look around, question, dig in, and start to see things a little bit differently. Because I will tell you, change becomes a whole new thing when we decide to allow it to happen instead of forcing it to happen. Well, there you go. What do you think of that? Head on over to scottpenyard.com/podcast. I would love to get your input, your ideas, your thoughts on this episode. This is, like I said, another in an intermittent series on change. I don't know when the next one's coming, whenever it pops into my head. So it could be next week, could be 6 months from now, could be a year from now. I don't know. But either way, I hope you like it. And if you do and you want to reach out, scottpenyard.com/podcast. That's where you can get a hold of me. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I'll be back again next week.